Have you ever felt stuck before, just not really knowing how to build your team or raise up the newest service provider inside of your company? Well, if that's ever been you, today's podcast is going to be the perfect fit to take those next amazing steps inside of your company.
Yeah, I chuckled a little bit in silence when you said that because it took me back to many, many, many years ago when I first started. And I have like 5 or 6 clients at a time. And I would think about, okay, we have other people in the salon, but who's going to teach you? I guess I'm going to have to teach everybody without truly seeing that, hey, like there's other educators out there. We're just going to take a little time, spend it with them. And when I started to make that transition, that's where we really started to grow and blossom.
Yeah. And, I think one of the most successful, amazing feelings is when you see a new stylist step into your company and really have the knowledge, skills, and abilities of like a 3 to 5 year stylist in just that short little 4 to 6 month training period when they walk into your master's program. And so today that's what we're going to talk about, like how do we create that amazing feeling, not only for us on our teams but for that individual service provider, and also the key player in here, that educator, because it's going to make them stronger. It's going to make them feel more brilliant. And, it's going to just create an incredible ecosystem for you inside of your salon.
Yeah. So let's kick it off. Let's talk about like what makes a good educator. And so you may be in the space where you're like, Jen, I only have like lower level stuff or level ones, level twos, level threes. Like they're not even ready to educate. But we're going to give you a different perspective today. First, we're going to give you some personality traits to look for when it comes to being an exceptional educator, because you don't always have to be have the highest producer, become an educator. Like you really, truly, at the end of the day, want someone that has that servant heart, that they want to serve and give back and teach so that they can kind of pass some of their knowledge on, which is going to continue to help them grow. But they're not really doing it for the money. The money is just going to be a byproduct from what comes from being an educator.
I love that. And I think once upon a time, I came from the school of thought, Jen, that you did have to have only busy, super busy, highly productive people inside of the salon being on the education team, and one of the qualifiers, if you got the next associate, was, your numbers. And, after a lot of learning and, discovery of like, hey, what, is going to serve everyone to their highest good. We've come across like some really great personality traits, like you mentioned, Jen, looking for somebody who does have that patience, adaptability, and just that ability to inspire others, is going to be key. I think another thing that is super important when you're trying to see who is going to be a good educator on your team is, do they have that commitment to personal and professional growth? Because like we know, hey, there's only two options in life. You're either growing or you're decaying. And it's totally fine, whatever anybody chooses in their own life. But, we know we are crystal clear in our company that, hey, having that commitment to that personal and professional growth is going to be one of the key markers in, somebody who's going to make a great educator, because they're always going to be open to feedback. They're going to be open to learning and growing. And really, that's going to allow them the ability to just, they're going to have a fuller cup. So they're going to be able to pour into another person. It's not going to, if you ever get in that situation where it feels like an associate is taking from somebody's life and not adding to their life, like, hey, doesn't make that a good or a bad person, but it does mean like, is this what we want in our education system? Because it can be a sign that, hey, this person, would be a great stylist, but maybe not a great educator. And just getting crystal clear on that, I think helps take you to the next level.
Yeah, I love that. So once you've kind of pinpoint like who will make a good educator, one thing too is doing some personality tests, like on the disc profile, a high I, someone that likes to inspire, that likes to make a difference in the world. Those make great educators. You can also check out, is it understand.me? Is that, yeah. And I
Yes.
think it allows understand.me. It's a great free resource. You can go on there and it takes, is it like 5 or 6 different personality tests, and it will
Yeah.
tell you everything you need to know about yourself. So even if you're a salon owner and you've never done that, I would first invite you to do it with yourself because you'll learn and discover
Mhm.
a lot. for that.
Mhm.
So, after you picked out the traits that you want, that's going to make a great educator, the next thing you have to work on is the training aspect of getting them from, just being a stylist or just being a service provider to actually becoming an educator. So, I think, one that we've seen before too is they're like, oh, I like Lindsay, she's going to be a good educator, I'm just going to throw her out there. And then there's lots of little breakdowns along the way. And so like you've got to almost like train the trainer, like setting up
Mhm.
the foundational principles for them so that they have new tools in their tool belt, so that when situations arise they know how to handle them. And it's, you remember, like I remember the first time I became an educator in my own company, like there's going to be times that there's opportunities to learn from, but at least you just got to continue to grow them, nurture them, and make sure they have those tools for success.
Yeah, and I love that you talked about like training the trainer, because that is the key aspect. Is like, you are, once you get to the role in your business where you're not the one, you realize like, hey, I don't need to be the only one training people. The vision here is even bigger, and so we want to allow other people to continue down their growth journey. And I think the CTC method really is one of the key elements when you are thinking about training up a new trainer, or educator inside of your company. And so the CTC method, if you've hung out with us for any time at all, you'll know that stands for connection, trust, and communication. And so you need all of those to be present in any sort of relationship for it to be successful. And if there's a breakdown in any of those areas, there's usually a breakdown in the relationship. And so it's usually just one area that has a breakdown, and it feels like the whole relationship collapses. But so really dialing in on that with that new educator, teaching them about that connection, that trust, that communication, and how they build that with a new associate, and then how they also teach them how to build that with your clients that come into the salon is going to be key.
Yeah, it'd be like if we see this a lot sometimes in salon companies too. If I'm a new educator and I'm introducing my new mentee to the client, and at the end of the service, the client goes up to schedule their next visit, and they're like, "Don't book me with Jen again when she has that mentee. Like I only want to see Jen." And so I think a lot of that happens is because we're missing that CTC, we're missing that connection,
Mhm.
communication, and trust between the client, the mentee, and the educator. And so, when we talk about connection, like, some key points of letting your educator know is like making sure that they're part of the consultation. Like they're not just standing back and watching, that both of you are making this an experience. Both of you are standing in front of that client. They're both, asking questions. They're both creating a complete look or a complete service, or thinking of ways to upgrade the experience. Because I feel like what happens is, from a client's perspective, is they're like, okay, I'm paying the same amount of money for Jen, but I'm actually seeing Jen less. And so, like, I
Mhm.
think the biggest missing component of this is that the client feels like their service is less than, when in
Mhm.
reality, when you have an educator and a mentee, like the service should be more than. So you have to think about, like, what are the little valuable pieces? What are the extra connection pieces that we can add to the experience? So yes, their price is the same, but they actually feel like they're getting more.
Yeah, so good. And so, once you've really nailed down, like, okay, who's going to be the right fit? How are we going to train them to become this educator? You've really instilled that CTC method and set up, like, how do you make it a win for everybody? A win for the mentee, a win for the client, and a win for the educator. The next thing that you need to look into is like, how are we going to measure success? Like, what is it? How do we know that this is a good fit? Because sometimes you'll have a trainer, that starts out incredible, and then maybe they lose some steam or enthusiasm over the years. And so, getting that feedback from trainees, I think is huge, and from the trainers is going to be huge. So, checking in with them to see, how's the overall progress going? What areas can we work on to just make this more successful for everybody involved? And also, checking in on the client experience. Whether that means like, hey, you're just going to like, uh, just monitor, like just, from afar, just stand back and kind of listen to a few consultations or a few checkouts or check-ins or whatever that looks like. Just really getting it from all perspectives to see, okay, how is this working, so that you can have like an ongoing improvement plan, so that everybody can win in that relationship.
Yeah. And so, like, if you're thinking, okay, this sounds great, like, the greatest invitation we can give you is just to try it out. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but, like, we've worked with salons before where all their educators left and they're like, 911, what do I do now? And I'm like, this is a huge opportunity because with the salon owner, she was able to give level twos and level threes the opportunity to educate 1 or 2 days a week. And their service dollars have doubled. And so, like, I always think sometimes when there's change can actually create opportunities. And so, we really invite you to think about the qualities that make a great educator in your company. Really view the CTC method: connection, trust, and communication. That consistent training is going to be key, and to measure the success.
Yeah. So if you've gotten some valuable information from today's show, we would love for you to share this with another salon owner that you just respect or hold in high regard. Because when we elevate the industry, like when the tide rises, all ships do as well. So we appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you again soon.